Right, last night we had the Tokyo ITU World Triathlon Olympic test event for the elite women, and it was won by Georgia Taylor-Brown. No Jess Learmonth, no Flora Duffy. Who knows? It really did go down in this race, but it was all finally decided by the ITU Competition Rule 2.11.f.
Yeah, Mark. Now, although this race wasn't officially part of the World Triathlon Series, it still was a rather big deal in itself, because not only did it give us a chance to have a look, or a sneak preview rather, of the Olympic Games course for next year, but it also served, more importantly, as qualification for a number of the nations who were sending athletes, and each of those countries had their own selection criteria.
Yeah, and just 2 hours before the race start, the first big news came in. The 10-kilometre run course can be shortened to 5 kilometres, and the reason apparently being due to a combination of the air temperature, the humidity, and the water temperature. Apparently the levels are just through the roof, and the officials decided that for athlete health and safety they were going to shorten the run course.
Now, once into the water, it was the familiar sight of Jess Learmonth at the head of affairs, with Katie Zafiris not too far behind, and then a loose group, including the likes of Flora Duffy, not so far behind either.
Yeah, but onto the bike, there was unfortunately quite a big crash involving the two Americans, Katie Zafiris and Kirsten Kasper, and sadly actually putting the world ranked number 1, Katie Zafiris, out of the race, unable to continue, and on her way to hospital for multiple stitches in her mouth.
Yeah, which is never nice to hear at all. But from that leading group, you had the training duo of Jess Learmonth and Georgia Taylor-Brown, who very quickly established a lead whilst they started running side by side for that whole 5K. And then when they hit the finishing straight, this is where the problems arose. Now, rather than crucially sprinting for the finish line and one of them winning, rather they essentially held hands and approached the tape together in a sort of sense of camaraderie. Later photo finish analysis did actually give Jess the win and Georgia second.
Yeah, but this, as you said, is where the real big problems and issues started, because by not actually making an effort to beat one another and race for that finish, they fell victim to the ITU Competition Rule 2.11.f. Now, this is a fairly wordy rule, but it finishes with the very important line of athletes who finish in a contrived tie situation where no effort to separate their finish times has been made will be disqualified.
Now, this situation isn't actually anything particularly new. We do remember back in 2012 at the WTS London event, the Brownlee brothers were actually warned that should they not make an effort to try and race for that finish line, they would be risking the very real possibility of being disqualified.
Yeah, I guess the idea of all of this is to keep the spirit of the sport, the competitiveness, and the excitement. Now, it is pretty black and white, but it is the rule, and you could argue that the girls should have known this is a high-level event, so jogging across the line, hand in hand, maybe wasn't the wisest of moves.
No, perhaps not. But on the other hand, you could argue that by implementing this rule, the ITU are perhaps being a little heavy-handed and over the top. And by judging by many of the comments that we're seeing already on social media, it seems an awful lot of you would think so too. I mean, the girls had put on an incredible performance. They had raced extremely well all the way up to that point, and you could say very well deserved to get that 1 and 2 together, and actually quite sporting that two athletes from the same country decided to do that.
And training partners as well. Now, obviously, an appeal was put in, but at the moment, the decision seems pretty final. Both Jess and Georgia have been disqualified, meaning that Flora Duffy, who originally placed third, has now been bumped up to first. Alice Beto from Italy has placed second, and Vicky Holland from Great Britain has placed third. Now, interestingly, because Vicky is actually a previous Olympic medalist, all she needs to do at this event was get on the podium, and that would secure her spot for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. So theoretically, she has now done that.
Yeah, we must point out that this is based on the specific Great Britain selection policy that a reigning Olympic medalist such as Vicky would get to go to Tokyo based on a podium here, which she's now got. Any other athletes, like Jess Learmonth or Georgia Taylor-Brown, who weren't reigning Olympic medalists, would have to get a podium here, which they thought they had done, and then a further podium in a couple of weeks at the ITU Grand Final in Lausanne. And those two results pulled together would have given them selection for Tokyo as well. But unfortunately now, with the result of this disqualification, that's been stripped away from them.
Yeah, a real shame for them. And not forgetting also, actually, that by bumping everyone else up in their results, it's also going to have some fairly big implications for other athletes from other nations too.
Yeah, so essentially the reaction to this result in this event is just going to rumble on and on, I'm sure, for some time. So please let us know your thoughts in the comments down there below.
Yeah, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've liked today's video. And if you'd like to see more from GTN, just click on the globe and subscribe. And if you'd like to see our show from GTN for this week on cheating in triathlon, then you can see that by clicking just down here.